ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਗੁਰੂ ਰੂਪ ਗੁਰੂ ਪਿਆਰੀ ਸਾਧ ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। ਸੋ ਗੁਰਮੁਖ ਪਿਆਰਿਓ, ਅਸੀਂ ਗੁਰਮੁਖਾਂ ਪਾਸੋਂ ਗੁਰਬਾਣੀ ਸਰਵਣ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਸੀ। We were just listening to Gurbani from the Gurmukhs. Maharaj tells us Gurbani comes straight from Paramatma. Gurbani is the truth and is known as the Pandara of Bhakti. Gurbani is where we learn devotional worship, Bhakti from. Maharaj tells us in Gurbani, Satgur ki bani sat sat kar jano gur sikho, har karta aap muhon kadaye. That the Gurmukhs, our Guru Sahibaan, Bhagts, saints, came into this world and they spoke Gurbani. That Gurbani they spoke comes right from Vaheguru Ji. Gurmukhs have their mind attached to the Naad, to Naam, and they absorb themselves in that Naam. And when they absorb themselves in that Naam, they become sanmukh to God. Then what they speak at that time is Gurbani, is known as the Gyan, the knowledge of the fourth dimension, which is above the Trigun. Also known as Brahm Gyan, the knowledge of the divine. But they speak it in the form of Gurbani. Maharaj tells us in Gurbani, Gurmukh Nadang, Gurmukh Vedang, Gurmukh Rehe Asmai. Now, Gurbani tells us the path to meet Vaheguru Ji. We are to travel upon the path of love and escape out of this Maya. As we have discussed in the past, that we are stuck in Maya, and this Maya, it's a dream that we are in. It's a supana. Now, how are we to escape out of Maya? That is going to be today's topic. All the teachings of Gurbani teach us how we are to get out of Maya, how we came into Maya, how this play started, and how we are to escape, how we are to connect with Naam. Now, Maharaj tells us that we learn devotional worship from Gurbani. That Bhagat Pandar Gurbani Lal. Gurbani is a jewel. It's a treasure of devotional worship. Gavat Sunat Kamavat Nahal. When we sing, hear, and then Kama. Kama means to act upon, practice the instructions Sadguru has given us, to make sure that we are living according to Gurbani. When we do that, we become Nihal. We go into ecstasy. We go into Anand. We get to a spiritual state where our mind is absorbed into Vaheguru Ji, higher than any happiness that this world can give us. Bhagat Pandar Gurbani Lal, Gavat Sunat Kamavat Nihal. Now, at the same time, Maharaj tells us that if we don't practice, if we don't do that Kamai, we don't Kama Gurbani, then we can't get into that state of ecstasy, into that state of ananda, into that state of bliss. Maharaj says that the servant six all come to worship and they all sing this high level Bani. Sevak Sikh Pujan Sab Ave, Sab Gave Har Har Uttam Bani, Gavya Sunya. Tinka har thai pave jin Sadgur ki agya sat sat gramani. If we don't do that kamai, we can't get into the Durga. They said that the one that sings and hears Gurbani that singing and hearing is only safal, will take us into Dargah if we actually accept the Guru's hukum, Satguru's command, and we follow Satguru's command. Gavya sunaya tinka har thai pave, jin Satgur ki agya sat sat karmani. That the singing and listening to Gurbani, to Satguru's bachan, is what will bring us into Dargah as long as we accept Satguru's hukum, which means that we live according to the command of Gurbani. If one has good fortune, good karma, then this Gurbani comes to reside within one's mind. Maharaj says, Gurbani is jag mein chanan, karma vasai man aaye. That Gurbani is enlightening the entire world. If we have good karma, good actions, good fortune, good actions lead to good fortune, then that Bani, Gurbani, comes to reside within us, within our mind. Now, Maharaj has told us that we have to practice what Gurbani teaches us, that we have to live according to Gurbani's hukum. And Maharaj tells us how we are to live in this life so that we can have ourselves emancipated, liberated, and residing within Dargah. Maharaj connects us with Naam, Shabd Guru, inside. Gurbani has nectar inside it. Gurbani de vich amrit hai. Maharaj says, Bani Guru, Guru hai Bani, vich Bani amrit sare. Gurbani keh, sevak jan mane, pratak Guru nistare. Maharaj tells us that anyone that follows what Gurbani says, they get that nectar which is inside Gurbani, and they get that nectar from inside themselves. That servant that follows the Guru, Gurbani Guru, they get connected to the Shabd Guru inside, which is known as Naam. Bani Guru, Guru hai Bani, which Bani Amrit Sare, Gurbani kahe sevak jan mane pratak Guru nistare. That's why Maharaj tells us Gurbani is to be sung. Gurbani is the praises of the Lord. Gurbani gave pai, o safal sada sukhdai. Nanak naam te aaya, purab likhya paya. That if we sing Gurbani, and as we've already spoken about, we practice what Gurbani teaches, our life becomes successful. And we have eternal peace within inside our mind. And our mind then connects to Naam. Nanak naam te aaya, purab likhya paya. So, when we're discussing what Guru Sahib says, when we're trying to figure out how we are to live within this world, Maharaj tells us that we have to connect with Naam, and that Naam is hukum. It's the command of God. Maharaj says, Eko Naam hukum hai Nanak Satguru diya bajaye jiyo. The Satguru, they give us the knowledge that Naam is hukum. That's the command of God. They give that knowledge through Gurbani. Satguru Sahib Sri Granth Sahib Ji is teaching us about Naam. And when we read Gurbani, Gurmukhs that get divine knowledge from Gurbani, that understand Gurbani fully because they practice what Gurbani says, they meditate, they try to go above the Triguna. They note that there's one command that is the command that we are to connect to and we are to be connected to day and night. Maharaj says, Gurmukh Gyan Eko Hai Jata, that Gurmukhs have taken one point of knowledge. And what is that? Gurmukh Gyan Eko Hai Jata, Anadin Naam Ravija Hai. That day and night, keep yourself connected with Naam. Now, to connect with that Naam that's inside, which is spoken by Waheguruji, which is known as the word, the Shabd, we have to follow what Gurbani says. We have to try to free ourselves of the 5 demons inside. Kam, Krodh, Loma, Ahankar. We first have to connect ourselves with the sound current of the Guru Mantra and free ourselves of thoughts so that we can get to that Naam. And then we have to practice life in a way that we don't separate ourselves with Naam. That day and night we remain connected with Waheguruji's Shabd. Now, our minds, as we've spoken before, they are asleep in Maya. Jin Maharaj kende a, Tehi guni sansar param sutta sutya ren mehani. That the mind has fallen asleep in the Triguna. Now, when we come into the Triloki, into the Triguna, our mind connects with this air, the air we breathe, which is known as Pawn. And that Pawn is Maya as well. Now, when our mind is connected with air, this air takes our mind into thoughts, into various anxieties and stress, into thoughts about the future or the past. Very rare is our mind still. Just as the air is free-flowing, our mind then flows with it. Maharaj says, Asa andesa band parana महल न पावे फिरत begana. That our mind comes into asa andesa, our mind comes into stress, and it also comes into different anxieties within this triloki when we connect with that air. Now, Paran means air, Parana. Maharaj tells us because of that, we can't come into the inner mansion, the true home of our mind, which is known as the Nijmel or Thirkar. Mahal na pave, firat begana. That our mind goes around in this body like a stranger. Our mind is basically having various thoughts that are produced by the 5 thieves within ourselves when we connect with the air. That's why Maharaj tells us, Panch Dut Chitve Vikara Maya Moka Epasara. Because we've been attached to Maya, these 5 thieves inside, Kam, Krodh, Loma, Ahankar, lust, anger, worldly attachment, and ego, they have a net of thoughts that they've placed upon the mind, that the mind just cannot get out of. We are in asa and desa, hope and fear. We are in anxiety and stress, all because we're connected with Pran, the air. Now, if we were to disconnect our mind from the air, in order to do that, first of all, we'd have to connect with Naam inside. But our mind would come to a point of stillness where we're thoughtless. Maharaj says that in order to do that, we are to jap, chant the Guru Mantra. Mere man, gur, gur, gur sad kariye. Ratan janam, safal gur kiya, darshan ko balhariye. Rahav. So Guru Sahib tells us that if we are to chant the Guru Mantra, like we do Waheguru, Waheguru, if we always do that, this life, which is also a precious jewel that's been gifted to us, becomes successful. And Maharaj says that we sacrifice ourselves for the glimpse, the blessed vision of the Lord, of the Divine. And Maharaj tells us that we are to chant that Guru Mantra with air. That's why Maharaj says that we should be praising the Lord with every single breath. We should remember the Lord with every single breath. ਜਿਸ ਨੂੰ ਗੁਰਬਾਣੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਾਸ ਗ੍ਰਾਸ ਸਿਮਰਨ ਕਿਹਾ ਹੋਇਆ, ਸਾਸ ਸਾਸ ਸਿਮਰਨ ਕਿਹਾ ਹੋਇਆ, that we use the air to praise the Lord, where Guru Sahib says, jete saas gras man leta, tete hi gun gaiye. That with every single morsel of air that we are being given by Vaheguruji, we are to praise the Lord. We should connect with the Guru Mantra or praise the Lord in the form of kirti, kirtan, like singing Gurbani, or praising the Lord doing Akath Kahani, doing the vichar of Gurbani, discussing what Gurbani says. And our mind absorbs into this air when we're fully concentrated doing Vah Guru, Vah Guru. We're chanting the Guru Mantra. Our mind absorbs into that air, then later on disconnects from that air and goes into Sun. Maharaj tells us here, jite saas gras man leta, tete hi gun gaiye, jo hoye dayal satgur apna ta eh mat budh paiye. Whoever Satguru is Diyalu upon, they show compassion to, they then let that mind know that you are to use that air to do Simran, to use that air to sing the praises of the Lord. When our mind then absorbs into that air, Maharaj tells us that air itself is absorbed within Sun. So what we're doing is we're meditating with breath work and using the Guru Mantra at the same time. That we use breath work as Guru Sahib has guided us as well, but we connect with the Guru Mantra along with the breath. All this air that we are being given to breathe comes right from Vaheguruji. Vaheguruji is the creator. They have created everything that is within this universe. They've created our bodies. They gave us life. And they support us through that air. Our body needs to breathe. And Maharaj says, Ape karta kar kar vekhe deda saas graha hai. That the Creator is watching the creation, taking care of the creation, and they're giving us morsels of air to breathe. They're sustaining our bodies by giving us air. That air is absorbed in Sun. Maharaj says, Pavan ka vasa, Sun nivasa, akal kalatar soi. That the mind should focus into that Sun where the air is absorbed. Our mind can get peace forever if we do meditation according to Gurbani. Within this Triloki, within this world, people devise many different types of meditation. Some people focus on the breath. Some people look at a flame. Some people focus on a black dot. Some people believe that they need to just exercise or dance until they drop, and then they feel that they have some sort of shanti, peace for their mind. But that peace is all temporary. If we do meditation according to Gurbani, our mind becomes peaceful forever. Our mind learns to be separated from the air and sit within a Sun. Now, if we focus only on the air, the breath work, if we only do breath work to do meditation, when our air returns into this body, our mind along with it will be only peaceful for a while it's absorbed in that air. But as soon as we let go of concentrating on the air, that air is going to take us into thoughts again. That's why Maharaj has taught us to use the Guru Mantra with this air that we're breathing, Saskara Simran, Sasa Simran. That if we use the Guru Mantra with the air that we breathe, what will happen is that we will be able to be free of thoughts, because that air is absorbed in sun, and our mind then starts to sit in sun as well, separating from the air though. Now, when we then want to have a thought to do some karma in this world, that's when we'll actually come into the air and perform karma. Our mind, when it comes back into the Turloki to do karma, it'll connect with that air to do the karma, but it'll never disconnect from that Naam. Maharaj tells us, this Maya, it's like a fire. It burns the mind. And whoever Guru blesses the Naam Mantra to, the Shabd to, they can actually escape this Maya. Maharaj says, Jaku Gur Har Mantra De, So Ubreya Maya Agante. That whoever Guru blesses Naam to, that mind can rise above the fire of Maya. That's why, to connect with that Naam, we have to chant the Guru Mantra first and free ourselves of thoughts, go into sun. Maharaj says, Ucharo Ram Naam Lakhbari. Maharaj tells us to chant the name of the Lord, the Guru Mantra, 100,000s of times. Ucharo Ram Naam Lakhbari. Amrit ras pivo prab pyari. That drink the Amrit nectar. That nectar is inside us. Maharaj tells us, Antar khuata Amrit parya sabde kaad piya panehari. That Amrit, that nectar, is inside of us, and using the Shabd we can drink that nectar. That is the actual sustenance for our mind. Jisnu Maharaj ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ, ਮਨ ਕਾ ਤੋਸਾ ਹਰ ਨਾਮ ਹੈ, ਹਿਰਦੈ ਰਖੋ ਸਮਾਲ, ਇਹੋ ਖਰਚ ਖੁਟ ਹੈ, ਗੁਰਮੁਖ ਨਿਭੈ ਨਾਲ. Now, Naam and air, they both actually come from Vaheguru Ji. Naam and air both come from Vaheguru Ji, but Naam takes us into sun, and then eventually into the fourth sun, which is a deeper sun than we originally go into when we start doing Abhyas. That fourth sun is where we meet Vaheguru Ji. On the other hand, air, because it's Maya as well, that air keeps us entangled within the Trigun. When we start doing Abhyas, when we start concentrating upon the Guru Mantra and being free of thoughts, then connecting into Naam, absorbing into Naam, we realize who we are. Jinu Maharaj ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ, Nanak Gurmukh aap pashane prabh jaise avinasi, that we, the mind, when it discovers itself, when it realizes who it is, there is no difference between the mind and Vaheguru Ji. In English, this is known as self-discovery, self-realization, discovering the divine, the creator, discovering what reality is. And when our mind is stuck in Maya, entanglements, its state of bliss that it originally had just simply deteriorates. When we had not come into Maya yet, when we had not entered the Trigun yet, our mind was in a blissful state. When we came into Maya, forgot Vaheguru Ji, disconnected with Naam, our blissful state deteriorated. Our mind became weak. Without help, we cannot escape Maya. That's why Vaheguru Ji has blessed us, Gurbani Guru and Guru Sahban and Gurmukhs that came into Maya. into this world of Maya to help us escape. Waheguru Ji created that one point of escape, that one point that where we can actually liberate ourselves from this Maya. Our minds are in bondage of Kal. Guru Sahib comes into this Maya, into this Triloki to free our mind. Maharaj says in Gurbani, Sab jag bado kal ko, bin gur kal afar. That the entire world has been placed in bondage by Kal. Kal, Shaitan, also known as the devil. Sab jag bado kal ko, bin gur kal afar. That the Guru is the only one that's free. And Guru Sahib then frees our mind as well. This is how we find out about life through Gurbani. By doing practical abhyas. Maharaj tells us that all pain, all types of kalesh, all types of arguments and conflicts within Maya, and all fear disappears when we have that Gurmantar in our mind, in our hearts, installed within our hearts and mind. Now, in Gurbani, Hirda is used as a shabd for our mind. So, in English translation, Hirda is actually straight translated as heart, but this heart that's pumping blood isn't what Maharaj is talking about. They're talking about the mind. When the mind is free of thoughts, when it's clean and pure, it's also known as Hirda. It's Shuddha, it's pure, our mind. That's where the Guru Mantra and Naam has to be installed. Maharaj tells us, Dukh kales na pao be ape, Guru Mantra hirda hoye. That if we have Guru Mantra inside us, all pain, conflicts, fear disappears. Kot jatna kar rahe, Gurbin tareo na koe. That the mind has tried all different types of techniques to release itself from bondage. But without connecting with the Guru Sahib, without connecting with the Guru, no one can cross this ocean of fear, this Maya Trigun that we are caught in. That's why it's important for us to realize that Maharaj is teaching us how to do Simran. And by doing Simran, we are basically unplugging our mind from Maya. And we are connecting our mind with Sach, Paramatma, who is the true reality. Maya is false, it's a dream, and reality is Paramatma. Paramatma, Vaheguru Ji, God, is the great giver. They're the great forgiver. Maharaj says, serve the Lord. Serve Vaheguru Ji. Soi sevyo jede data baksinda, and all our sins that we've done will disappear, will be destroyed. Kilvik sab binas hon simrat govind. That when we do the Simran of Vaheguru Ji, Govind, which is another name for Vaheguru Ji, all our sins are eradicated, they are destroyed. And that is why we get that peace. Har marg sadhu dasya japiya gurmant. That the sages, the saints, they teach us the path to meet Vaheguru Ji, and they teach us how to jap, chant the Guru Mantra. Maya swad sab fikya har man pavand. That the tastes of Maya, they then aren't enticing to the mind. Our mind will only then want to attach with Vaheguru Ji. That's where the mind gets bliss. Dhyaye Nanak Parmeswara Jin Diti Jind. When we put our focus into Parmeshwar. And when we connect with Waheguru Ji, who's given us life, we get all that bliss that Maharaj talks about. Our mind becomes peaceful forever. Now, to do jap of Guru Mantra, because today's topic is how are we going to escape from Maya. We talked about Sasgra Simran, Sasa Simran, and that has to do with using the air, absorbing our mind into the air, and then separating from the air. Now, to do abhyas of the Guru Mantra, there's 4 types of bani that are talked about, and 3 have to do with chanting the Guru Mantra. One is known as Bakhri Bani. Bakhri means in a loud voice, so that you can drown out any other sounds and simply listen to your voice. As you get used to that, the next stage of jap is known as Madhma Bani. So that's quiet enough so that only you hear yourself doing the Guru Mantra jap. Someone else may or may not hear you at all. After Madhma is Pasanti. Pasanti Bani is where we do jap only with our mind inside, without using our mouth, without using our tongue. So we're doing jap, we're chanting. Jap means to chant. We're chanting the Guru Mantra only with our mind. So it's known as doing chanting mentally, or just with our surti, just with our mind itself internally. As we do that jap, our mind going through Bakhri, Madhma and Pasanti becomes more thoughtless than it was originally. And we reach a point where we start to hear celestial sounds, celestial music inside, which is known as Parabani, Par Brahmdi Bani. Now, when we get to that point where we start to hear celestial music inside, celestial sounds inside, it's important that we continue doing the Guru Mantra Abhyas, but at that time, it's important that we also practice Rom Rom Simran. Simran using our hair and pulse of our body. Rom actually means hair. And when we start to do Simran with the pulse instead of using the air, like we would in Sasgras and Sasa Simran, our body, wherever it internally feels its pulse, it starts to do Simran. And it's called Rom Rom Simran because we have hair on our body, and this mind of ours starts to feel, everywhere the hair is, it starts to feel that the Guru Mantra is being chanted internally. Sometimes it feels like you can put your dhyan anywhere inside your body at any point, and we start that practice off with a pulse. And it feels like you can just hear the Guru Mantra automatically just going all the time. And that is known as Rom Rom Simran. That is where we want to be with our Guru Mantra by the time that we start to hear celestial music, celestial sound. We have to prep ourselves that in case Waheguru Ji speak inside, and they speak in a very loud celestial sound, which is known as Gur Sabdi Gobind Gajya. We have to be sure that we can absorb into that sound and not have any sort of issue with our body. Sometimes some people do abhyas and they're not ready to hear that sound yet because it's really loud. And some people, they can actually get hurt with the top of their head. In Punjabi, it's known as talu fat jana. like talu is the top of the head, and basically a person can get that point to burst up top. And it's important that we actually do abhyas of Rom Rom Simran as well. Rom Rom Simran, to start it off, we use our pulse. Sometimes what happens is when Vaheguru speaks inside so loud that the mind can actually lose its mental balance. That's why it's important that we do Guru Mantra da Abhyas. We practice the Guru Mantra step by step. When we start to hear Anahad Shabds, Anahad Bani, it's important that we also practice Rom Rom Simran. You just take the thumb of one hand and you place it upon the pulse of the other, the opposite wrist, and you start to chant the Guru Mantra internally with that pulse. As the pulse beats, you do the chanting of the Guru Mantra inside. When you start practicing that, then you start to move that focus towards your heartbeat. You start to then do the chanting of the Guru Mantra with your heartbeat. As you do the chanting of the Guru Mantra, just as the heart is pumping blood, the Guru Mantra starts to flow everywhere within your body, and you can then get to that state where you focus inside your body. Where there's a pulse, it'll feel like the Guru Mantra is happening there. The Guru Mantra is being chanted there. This makes the mind very still, and it gives you that power to absorb into the Shabd when Vaheguru speaks inside. In this Brahm, within this Sun, just as we see in this world that sometimes it rains, Maharaj says that there's always the rain of nectar within Sun. Listening to Shabdi Vichar, discussion of Shabd, Naam, we can actually drink that nectar. And when you practice Rom Rom Simran, you are completely successful with Rom Rom Simran once you start to feel that barkha, that amrit varkha, that rain of nectar upon your body. Your body becomes nice and cool. Your mind becomes peaceful as that rain of nectar comes upon you. You won't see the drops, but you'll feel as if it's raining. Now, when we do abhyas like this, we're trying to escape from the Tirloki. It's important that we realize that we have to go up to the point where we are beyond Maya and Kal. Maya can bring our mind down even if it gets up to celestial music, which is known as Devlok. Devlok is where Anahad Bani, celestial music, is playing. Maharaj says that Dev Stane Kya Nisane Te Baje Sabd Anahad Bani. We are to try to go beyond the grasp of Maya and Kal. Maya Mohe Devi Sab Deva. That Maya entices the Devi Devte, the angelic beings. That is, Devlok is where celestial music plays. But Maya can attack up to that point. All invisible and visible forms are in the hands of Kal. Traigun, Maya, Rajgun, Tamgun and Satgun. The three modes of the Triloki of Maya, that's in the grasp of Kal as well. Traigun Kale ki Sarkara. And Maharaj then says, Khand Patal Deep Sab Loa Sab Kale Vasab Prab Kiya. We are to reach the point where we are free of the grasp of Maya and Kal. So we have to know where we are going. Maharaj tells us through Satguru Sikhya that Satguru takes us across the Pavsagar, the ocean of fear. Jisnu Maharaj kehne Satguru hai boheta sabd langavan har. That Satguru, they carry us across the Pavsagar as one crosses in a boat across an ocean. We are crossing the ocean of fear through Satguru. Satguru hai boheta sabd langavan har. They use the shabd to get us across. Tithai pavan na pavako, na jal na akar. That where we're going, there is no air, water, or fire. Tithai pavan na pavako. There's no air, fire, there's no water there. Na jal, na akar. There's no form there. No form there means no subtle form, like in the invisible forms that we talk about are sukham. Those are seen with our sukham eyes. Like for instance, when we fall asleep, we're seeing dreams. We're using our sukham akars, our invisible bodies, our astral bodies, senses. And when you cross the Pavasagar and you end up where Vaheguruji is, there's no longer any forms there. Vaheguruji is formless. There's no subtle forms, like their astral body, Sukham Sarir, and there is no physical forms. Maharaj says, Tithai pavan na pavako na jal na akar. What is there then? Tithai sacha sach nai pavjal taranhar. There, where we are to reach, there is such, known as the truth. Paramatma, Vaheguruji is known as the truth. And they are in the form of light, prakash. Tithai sacha sach nai. Nai means nam. You hear nam there. And our mind then rises above nam as well once we're fully absorbed into it, and then we become sanmukh right in front of Vaheguruji. Tithai sacha sachnai pavjal taranhar. Through that nam, we get across the Pavasagar, just like we spoke that Guru Sahib uses the shabd to have us cross the Pavasagar, the ocean of fear. Gurmukh lange se par pe, sache seon lavlai. That the Gurmukhs are the ones that reach the other shore by focusing on such through the Nam. Ava gaun nevarya jyoti jyot milai. That they're coming and going into the world, reincarnation cycle comes to an end, and the light of their mind merges into Vaheguruji forever. Ava gaun nevarya jyoti jyot milai. Sometimes people, when they do abhyas, they do Simran, they do meditation, they start to look at different colors in front of their eyes. And they start to see the prakash, the light of the 5 elements instead. For instance, this entire universe is made up of 5 elements. And we've talked in other videos before as well on YouTube that this entire universe is made of the 5 elements. And if you break down some of those elements, you get the chemical compositions that scientists talk about. Now, in general, all bhagats, saints, they've told us, Guru Sahib has told us about these 5 elements that make up the universe, which is air, ether, fire, water, and earth. Now, this play that we see of 5 elements, the air, when that element is in front of our eyes, we see green color. When we see Akash, we see black or blue. When we see Agan, Akash is known as ether. When we see Agan, which is fire, we see red. When we see the water, we see white, Pani Tat. And when we see the earth, or Mitti Tat, we see yellow. Now, sometimes we start looking at those colors, and because that's Maya, the different colors, green, blue, black, red, white, and yellow, which are the Panchatattva, we sometimes start to see different forms inside those colors. And our mind can fall into a trap of Kal, of Maya, where we go into the Gandharv Nagari, which is also known as Maya's net, Maya Jaal, or Mrig Trishna. It's like a mirage. We do not want to get caught in the Gandharv Nagari, because if we start looking at those colors that come in front of our eyes, we start to see different forms, and people end up thinking that they've reached a certain point of success in meditation, but they actually have not risen above Maya yet. And many people get caught in that Maya's Jaal, in that net of Maya, in that mirage. And they think it's real, but it's not. We want to see reality. And reality is the truth, is Waheguru. We want to see reality, which is the truth, which is Waheguruji. And when we connect with Waheguruji, there we see Prakash, which is above. That light of God is above all Maya. It's different from these colors of Maya. So that was all the beintiyan for today. If I've made any mistake in speaking, please do forgive me. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.